Okay, so far we have yesterday we learned about little bit about pandas and how do we play around with data. Yeah, that's it for revision because I want to show and proceed in this project so that we sort of complete the requirements. And then I'll also talk about like what happens after the project completion and then at the deployment end and then maintenance and so on. So this is just a small use case. It is not a complete project because you can later on you can add the code and you can improve it like production code. So today we will discuss about the project. So far, I'll just expand these things so that we have idea about what we are doing. And so our initial design, so subscription design was like something like you fetch the news, fetch news, and then fetch weather, and then you also sort of do some data analysis or do some operation on the uh, tabular data, which is our movie database, and then recommend movies or send some interesting stuff about movies. So uh, and then you sort of combine this, aggregate this into um, a content, probably a dictionary or list or whatever. So aggregate this data and then send a notification. So notification is another module. So notify. And then who are going to watch for this is the users. So uh, we we covered almost all of this little boxes except the notification. So we understood fetching news through API or through the web scraping. So you can do either ways. So API, REST APIs. So we also spoke about what is REST and what is the difference between just the normal HTML page and the REST APIs, and then scrape it. We got the news. Similarly, there is a weather API, so which is same thing. So shoot a REST API and then get the data. So we didn't cover this, but it's both are same. You can use the same function for fetching uh, the data, REST API. And then movies related stuff we did yesterday. We got about 16K movies, and then we try to get average based on ratings, top movies of top some directors and so on. So those things you can aggregate as well. And then users, we last week I think we created a CSV file wherein we have email and then names, and we learned about how to deal with CSV and so on. So generally, if you have registration page, which is like an UI, so what you can do is, what is the next step of this project? So before talking about this notification, so I'll talk about what happens next. So these are just the modules, and then we aggregate it, and probably we write a file called as main.py, which is here. Um, here. So I'll just call these functions from these files, which is from fetch news, fetch weather, and so on, which are here. This is our news module. This one. This is our news module. And then notification, we're going to talk about it. And then we have subscription, which is like user data, which is here. and about whether it is same method that we are using. So these are the boxes and these are the folder structure which we have created based on our brainstorming session. And this is something where this is just to create the flow, because you have the modules and you import it and then uh, extract the data from those functions, call those functions and get it into variables and aggregate it. And this is where you um, trigger the functionality. So in this main function, probably I'll have say get news and so on. First get news, second get weather, and third get movie recommendations, so on. So these three, probably I'll store it in say a dictionary, probably like this is news, and then I'll probably put it here, news content, and weather content. You can choose any data that the data type that you wish to do, but yeah. So this is what I'm thinking as of now, but you can do anything. And then you can put this movie recommendations in one dictionary. And once you get this data, this is not you know something which is sort of an HTML or formatted text. In fact, you can format this text, okay, wherein you get these nice emails with pictures and text which is like heading and so on, right? You can do this because that is the work, or that can be done using HTML. So our emails support HTML as well. That is why you can make your format your text in the email, like making it bold, bullet points, and all these things come from HTML. So some emails doesn't support HTML. So what happens is some servers, they strip off all the tags and then they just make it as a plain text. So that is why in your companies or sometimes you see the mail that all your it also asks that this format is not supported. So let me go back to the basic bare minimum text. So some servers do that, but generally you'll have HTML support. So you can format this nicely and then you can send the mail. So how do you send the mail? So take this dictionary. Let me clear this. Um, so I got some the content, which is uh, say some dictionary, three dictionaries, and then probably you'll format it to text. So I'll just put it as a one string. So this is after formatting. Just imagine that this is a complete string after processing. Once this content is there, you can additionally format it, but that's just this for just for aesthetics and and the format. You can send it over the notify uh, module. So these notifications can be of different types in especially if you have your own app, you can send it through push notifications. That is why you see those notifications coming in, right? It's like WhatsApp and all this. So that works on push notification. You can also send mail, which we are going to discuss today. Send mail, which is over one more protocol called as SMTP, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. And then you can also send it through WhatsApp. So, so these companies also WhatsApp is a company, right? So WhatsApp, Telegram, they also provide you APIs where you can send the text. So one of the companies which work with such messaging and notification services is called Twilio. Yeah, I think I spelled it right, but yeah. So you can search. So they also you can pay and use it. For example, if you're running a commercial service, just you can utilize this. And then there are SMS services. I think this guy also provides SMS. So you can, so SMS is through the network carrier. So this is over the internet, right? So these are the various uh, ways to send notifications. So if you see this sort of pattern, like you have, okay, a notification is it's an abstract thought, and then you have these other ways to send. So in such cases, while writing code, so this is a pattern, right? So you can think of it as one base class, and then there are child classes, C1, C2, and so on. So in this case, if I want to make it to you know, make a class, I can probably write noti notification or notify, something like that, notification or send notification. So class names will be usually in camel case, which is like S and N is capital case. If you see that variable or that string in your code, that means it's coming from a class. And then you can send inherit this, uh, saying that push notification, and then inherit this send notify notification, and then this is one class, and you can keep creating classes for others as well, send email. So once you have this base class and subclasses, you can there are common items in this all this notification. The common thing is the subject and the content. So that is where you can put all the common things here inside this base class, uh, say content and subject. So what changes here is the probably the interfaces where it gets out of your box, right? Like email, um, these APIs which are sending WhatsApp messages or SMS and so on. So this you will have to um, redefine. So send. Send or notify, something like that, where you have function called as notify uh, defined here, but you can also uh, you should be overwriting this or redefining this. That's the right word in Python, because in Java we have overriding and all these things. So here in Python it's a bit complicated because it's Python is a interpreted language, so it's difficult to have overriding facility, but you can redefine it. So yeah, you can try that out later. So yeah, you have a notify function which can send the email or whatever push notification on these things. So it's a single interface, and then you can send the uh, content and the subject. So what is the use of this is so you at a driver level, at a driver in the sense, for example, main function is a driver which sort of drives all this data flow, right? So at a driver level, what you can do is we have user data, and you can loop through user data. So you can say do for user in say users, and then you don't have to remember what um, each of these users preferred notification channel. So you can simply call this send this, you can identify the right object and probably call something like uh, user, and then get the user, and for that particular user, so you can simply call notify some this object, some the send notification object dot notify in a loop. So in the user table or in some other table which is linked to user, this one you can also so to do this you need some linking, right? So that linking you can bring it at the database level, saying that this user prefers notification through so and so channel. So he may be in a list or in database. If you if you add new column saying notification type or types, you can have email, push, and so on. So this is up to the user who can choose that. So you don't have to write a new loop or a new line of code or new handling for sending notification. You can simply just call that um, object. Uh, so you can, since is coming from send notification object. Yeah, in Java, what we do is Java and C++, we call the abstract class or the pointer, which is base class, and then we use the functions. But in Python, you can keep these objects directly, create the objects like send mail, and then you can simply have this object, say, oh, send mail object. So and then so1 S2. This is say push notification, push object, or things like this. You can actually keep this in a list, because list supports um, any data type to be there. It can support mixed types, and then if you just loop it through, you can simply send the notification that you have desired here. So different types of notification in single one shot. So that is how you sort of separate out the details of the implementation, and just the interface talks about what we are trying to do, but how we are trying to do is hidden inside the implementation. So that is how most of the design should talk about, because uh, this helps to uh, sort of reuse the code, and also inherit the code, and make changes and split the code into multiple pieces if you want, without any risks, and with less time. So that is one of the things that we are trying to chase, right? We are fighting with the time, and if you have organized the code in such a way that it is manageable, debuggable, and modifiable, and so on. So it's easy to do this. So that is this is how we can achieve this. Okay, so let us look at send mail module. Send mail is actually simple, because we have like data frames, right? We understood data frames quickly because we are used to work in Excel sheets and tabular formats. So similarly, mail is something which we are used to from a long time, from decades. So what is mail in terms of network is, so each of these wherever there is a data communication between the networks, right? So there are protocols involved. So we saw some of the protocols. Uh, so one is HTTP, which is good for internet, right? So it has uh, internet, and then on top of this, we saw REST uh, architecture, and then we also looked at database, how databases communicate. Databases use their own protocols, but and so protocols means this is not an independent protocol. So all of these protocols are built on top of other protocols. So those protocol layers are defined or have recommendations in something called as OSI model. So you can check out and read wiki page about OSI. So this is OSI network model or protocol stack or something like that. So based on top of TCP, you sort of build these application layers. Similarly, we have a protocol for mail, which is called as SMTP. So generally, where we use mail, right? We don't think about this usually. So how does the mail communication happens is um, you know quite interesting. So when you send a mail, so imagine that there are no Gmail, Yahoo, and any of these things, right? So what it used to be in universities earlier. So every university will host a server. So this is called as same mail server, and people who are using today we use internet to uh, open the Google Chrome, and then we go to gmail.com and we use that things, right? Those are just the UIs created on top of these protocols. So if imagine that there are no UIs like that and so on. So so there used to be some command line, and in that command line you can actually I think they're called Unix mail or something like that. So you can try this on, it is still supported on your Linux boxes. So you can actually send mails over your command line as well. People used to open up command line, and it used to prompt like what is the content that you want to write, what is your because Unix username and password is already logged in. So it uses that, and then so username and password for that account on the command line, and then you want content, what you need to type, and then there is whom do you want to send. So here again you have multiple cases, right? And this is for like two, and then there is CC and BCC. So CC is carbon copy, BCC is blind carbon copy. So you know BCC, right? So others won't come to know who are all the recipients. So to, and of course there is from, username and password is one thing, and also there is from. So these things you can relate because we have been using it. So once you type this in, so and then there is a special character called as end of file, and I think it is control D or something like that. So you press that, and it marks that okay, email is complete. And in fact you can also attach some things which is quite similar to this. You can also provide the path and so on. So once you have this, once you press that end of file, so it used to send this all this content to this mail server. So once it gets into this mail server, what people used to do is, in order to receive the mail, they used to log into the server. So actually it's like logging into some other computer and seeing. So log into this mail server and check their mails. Okay. So that was the initial mail. So it's, I think in 90s, people used to do this even in companies. So you can log in, and so I heard a story where when I joined, all these mails were already there, Outlook and so on. So I think in early 90s, so one of my manager was narrating. So he sent a so he was pissed off with his manager, so he was angry, and he sent a big mail, and pushed the mail here. And then next day morning, he realized that okay, that is too much, that I shouldn't have done. So he logged in there and he deleted that mail. So in the server, because that is how people used to read. So and then people built some clients where you can download these mails automatically to your uh, server that you are working. For example, this is your server, like local server or local computer, you can say. So now we have got a email box which is in the server, and then there are some programs which constantly, instead of I logging into this server, what would this client program would do is, it will go to this box and fetch all the mails. So basically download all the mails and keep it in one format. So this became your email boxes, like your personalized email local boxes. So that is how. So if you're using your mobile, so all the Gmail, Outlook are visible here. So if I send a mail, it immediately pops up on your mobile phones, right? So how is it possible? It is possible because there is a client code which is on your mobile, which is constantly getting that looking listening to that particular server changes. So if somebody is listening to that where is it listening, right? So what is the port that it is listening, right? So that port is actually fixed for SMTP. So that port is defined in SMTP. So people, and then this was like standardized, right? So even before this, so this at this point it was already standardized. So this was SMTP over SMTP and simple mail transfer protocol, I think, yeah. So um, you have client which can download, and you have client, the same client can also have different module in its program. You can also send the mail, and somebody else who is having his own server. So if you send mail to me, my client code is watching for changes, and it will get the data. So this is if you remember in early 2000s, before the Gmail came, so if you send a mail, it was not as fast as today. So you'll have to wait for couple of probably minutes or something like that. So you'll have to wait because computers were slow back then, and then people were using flocking into Yahoo Mail, AOL, which is America Online, and so on, and Rediff Mail. And these things were there before. In 2004, something big happened, which is Google bought in Gmail, and it said so. Also, you can also see that you're downloading the emails here onto your local computer if in those days, and your um, local folder can get, because it's a file, right? You have downloaded it, say in text format or some other format. So it is growing. So there is limited space here. So if somebody is offering you a service, so that service has a limited uh, uh, memory, right? So back then it was all like few kbs, 1 MB, 2 MB, and then it reached a certain point, like 50 MB was like it was more, because it's just a text, right? Text doesn't take more than 1 KB, and so on. So if you have some 100 mails coming into your Yahoo Mail box, it would already complain saying that, okay, this is mailbox is getting filled up. If somebody sends you an attachment, then it's gone. So in those days, if you remember, so even sending an attachment would be like, click and keep watching it, whether it's going or not. So because internet was quite slow, it was in kbps. Okay, so these were the challenges built on SMTP, and you see that this protocol hasn't changed. Only so that is the beauty of protocol. So if you have somebody who is developing this protocol, an individual person or or a committee, so they usually think or they slice out the technology growth and what could happen later, and they build a protocol in such a way that it is constant. It serves the purpose even though the technologies are changing. Now we have fast internet and all, and in 2004 we got 1 GB. I think it was 1 GB initially, and then it increased to like now it's 15 GB, the Gmail service. And if you can also buy because of the cloud technology that came in meanwhile. So you can have separate drives for this. You can buy on Dropbox, Gmail, and so on, Google Drive, and so on, right? So now memory is not a problem. So this is how the SMTP was there. So the reason that you need to know all this is because if you are sending a mail, it is possible that you are probably, if you're sending a mail to say Gmail, so we actually don't care because this is some other company. So if you are having your own servers and you are uh, owning some automation where you send, say, some test reports and so on, you are actually working on your company's servers. Say I'm some company, okay, uh, D company or something like that. Let's call that D company. So in this company, you cannot keep on sending the mails and do be mindless like we are in Gmail, right? In Gmail, you can send anything because memory is not a problem. Somebody else is serving us. Uh, so here you cannot be like mindless. What we do is we also clean up every now and then, like 3 months, 1 year, and so on. So Outlook also cleans up, right? So it says that okay, after 1 year, I'll archive it, and then after 2 years, I'll probably put it somewhere, and so on. So this cleanup is happening. So that is the reason that you need to understand that it's a server which is uh, hosting a protocol called as SMTP, and then people have their own email boxes. The memory is not unlimited. So these are the things that you need to keep in mind while sending the mail. And when you're automating this stuff, you also should automate the cleaning up part as well. Say if you're working in automation team or so on. Okay, so this is about SMTP, and let us look at the code. Code is actually pretty simple. Coding is we learned that coding is not a big deal now. So let us I generated this code and modified this. Okay, so let us understand what we learned and whether it matches our understanding. So okay. So whenever you see the code, go to the trigger point where it is there. So this is our trigger point. So line number 46 and 47. So let us just take that send email, and I have written this function, and send email takes in typically to list whom do you want to send, and you can also parameterize you know uh, from as well. But yeah, I didn't see the necessity because I'm sending it from my computer. And subject and body, these are the things which are usually like variables in this project. So this I have a test email which is called as bits and bytes 10 some. This is the email ID, and then this is the receiver email ID, and password and this password. So line number 10, this is the actual password of this particular account. Okay, but I'll show you something here. So this password is a different password. I'll tell you what is this. Before that, let us try to understand a little bit about authentications. So this, when you send mail to SMTP, so SMTP can also say that reject that server before getting into mailbox. It can actually reject your email, saying that this doesn't fit into some requirements. So one of them in Gmail is it doesn't accept plain passwords. This is specific to Gmail. Okay, and then you need to generate something called as token, just like we did it in GitHub. So we generated personal tokens, right? Similarly, we need to generate this token. So how do you generate is another, uh, I'll just show you the screen where you can generate. So if you go to your um, security, which is like go here and click on settings, manage your Google account, and then see this security. You can actually enable two-step verification. This is my personal account. So two-step verification, now it is off. You have to enable that, and you need to add something called as app password. So I'm going to cancel this. I'm not going to do for this, but I'll show you the bits and bytes email. So you can uh, enable the you can enable the app password going to security, and then yeah. So these are the things which is provided by Gmail. On top of the bare minimum SMTP, they have built all this authentication mechanism, and they sort of watch out for any suspicious activity and so on. So this is not related to SMTP, but they have built on top of that. So two-step verification. Once you add this, you can also you can search for add app key. App password Gmail, app password Gmail. So it will take into your that particular page, and you can create your app password here. Okay. So this requires authentication. Like this is two-factor authentication. So it is not just the password. Password is already put in, but generally two-factor authentication will be something like once your password is there, you also get some SMS, right, for transactions and all these things, right? So that is two-factor authentication. It helps to somebody has your password. So just with the password, they cannot get into or misuse your account, right? So here on the MacBook, it you can also configure it for like fingerprint. So it's a two-factor. Unless I am there personally, nobody can access this app. So that is two-factor authentication. So always enable two-factor authentication for your bank accounts and your company emails and such things. So that is about you can create your own app password. Once you create your, I have created one for Python code. You can see it here. You can also create say um, new Py code, something like this. Once you click on this, it gives this password. Then you can copy this and use it. Okay. And okay, that is this password. This is actually the app password. So this is specific for Gmail, but yeah, I think other depends on the vendors what they're doing. You can look at them. So okay, this function has got username, password is already configured. This is like one-time configuration, and then to list and subject and body are things are changing. So we made it as a function. So this I was talking about SMTP. So this is where we are trying to utilize SMTP library, which is already there, so you don't have to install. And then there is also something related to email, text, and multi-part and so on. So this is required for attachment, and this is just for plain text. So you can read about like how to send attachment. That's an once you understand this, it's quite simple. Okay, so multi-part and so on. Okay, you have this class where you have initialized that and you got a object. So this is just an object. We have named it as server, and then there is something called as TLS. So you don't require this if you do not have certificate like in HTTP. If HTTP is just a plain text, right? So what is difference between HTTP and HTTPS is HTTP is unencrypted, HTTPS is encrypted. So it is S stands for secured, right? So HTTPS, and similarly there is something called as TLS. TLS, you might have heard about this in your companies, schools, colleges, if you have learned this. So this TLS is a protocol where you can exchange the certificates, and then it helps us to configure in a way that the channel is secured. So what happens when you use the certificates is that it encrypts using the public key of the receiver, and then it sends on the wire. So there are tools where you can sniff the uh, um, read the packets going out of your network. Nobody can stop it, right? So if you're sending a mail from your home, I can sit somewhere outside your premises, and if it's on Wi-Fi, I can read all the packets that is ongoing in your apartment or your home. So yeah, I can see all the packets, but I cannot see the data because it's encrypted. If it's not encrypted, I can actually see on in the packet on this protocol. uh, these protocols are freely available, right? These are like publicly available protocols, and tools like Wireshark, which is one of the popular tools, it can read the packets and look at those packets, and actually if it is not encrypted, you can see the mail content. Okay. So recently um, there was one tweet I saw. I'll forward you. So somebody there is a restaurant called as Social, wherein people scan the QR code on the in the restaurant where you can order things. So the guy who was doing this, like providing this service, he never sent, that line was not secured. So people just logged into his REST API and got all the data. Like there are like thousands of people's data, and you can use that data for like social engineering. So that was a, you can read about that. So that is the impact. So if it's not encrypted, then like data is out there. Okay. Okay. So that is the reason that you say that it is TLS. So how this TLS is comes into play is that it takes this password and it uses that you know uh, yeah, for especially for this okay, it's nothing to do with your password. It takes the username and password that is for to log in to your server, and it starts a secured line. So if you had to write your own code, it becomes long. You have to understand complete TLS and what are certificate changes and what you need to public key, private key, and all these things. But here you just use one function and you get all the functionalities. Okay. So we initiated a server and we said that okay, start TLS, which is like a connection, and then server dot login. So you remember that there is a SMTP server in the university that I was giving an example. So people used to log into the server. So this is exactly what we are doing. We log into that server using our username and password, just to authenticate and send mail. So this is the content that you have got already and send a mail. So this is like and making an entry in that server. So once this is done, you that's all. So it goes out of your box. So let me take some examples here. Uh, I created CSV somewhere there. Okay, I'll take a couple of email IDs from here. Send email here. So this is a list. So I'm going to paste it here. So not here. Paste it here and take this just the email IDs. Okay. So I can do it in bulk, but there are only few entries. I am doing it manually. So once I have this, so I'm going to create a list out of this. So okay, so this is a plain text. So this is not a string yet because I need to put the codes, right? So in I can use from 46 till 51. You can do it in Notepad plus plus as well, but I'm used to beginning with this and the same command ending. So you can, okay, this is just a tip. You don't have to, this is not part of, so you can see this part here. This is the VI command that I'm saying. I'm saying that from 46 till 51, uh, S is for substitute, dollar is for ending of the line, and um, this is anyways just the code. Okay, so I'm using that to replace. So that is where you're seeing the commands if you are wondering where it is going. And okay, I also need a comma extra. So let me get out of this. So there you go. So this is now formatted. So all I need to do is just add this box uh, and I can put receivers. Okay, that's it. You don't need to format, and just for you can in fact right click and do formatting. Configure. Okay, let it format. So these are the receivers. So I have put a list here. Let me just this is parameterized. So I'm going to send receivers here, and I'm going to send two emails. So one is this and this. So you can see at line number 50, we are just taking this receivers and then subject and so on. Okay. So here, where is that? Okay, this is taking only single. So I've generated this code from ChatGPT, right? So it is just taking this string. So in order to use it in a use it for all the emails, so you can simply do for um, like subscriber s in receiver. This is just a s is just a variable, right? You can do that, and you can simply send this. Okay, I'll just comment this, and instead of this, let me see if it's list or to list. Send email receiver email. Okay. Okay, I'll keep this as is. I'll do receiver email. So I'll try to send email. Let's see if it works. So okay, sorry. List has no. So this is a mistake here. For example, I had to send S, but I'm sending receivers. So when it tries to encode what is in that, it says that list has no attribute encode because string has encode. So I need to send S. So these are the some general mistakes that you do. You can quickly identify them. So it's going in a loop, and probably you guys will receive mail.
Yeah, it is here.
But yeah, yeah. So yeah, so that is how the we have uh, learned about sending notification using email. So this is so understanding takes about like half an hour, and then coding is actually simple. You don't have to write this code exactly, but understand how things work. And for example, why this password is not supported in Gmail and so on. This is specific to Gmail. Similarly, there could be other mail servers could be doing something else, but this part is constant. The SMTP part is always constant. So that is about sending mail. Um, so let me see if there are subscribers. Oh, then send mail to these guys. Let me send to them as well so that they know something is happening in our class. Is it there already? Yeah. Yeah, it's already there. Okay. Fine. Okay, that's about the mail part. So now coming back here in your main program, how to put things together, right? In the driver code, you can simply import uh, all these packages, which are this just folders. This is generally we call this as a driver code because we are aggregating and doing these things from news. You can say from news, which is here. Import probably news. I think get news from REST API. So you can put here from news because this is package, and then there is a file called news, which is news.news. So this is a package name, this is the module name, and it should get news. Yeah, it will recommend automatically. So use this. Similarly, from subscribers data, you can do subscribers, and this is uh, just empty code now because we just understood CSV parsing last time, but you can do the same thing here. So you get those data, and where is the main file? Control P will open this text box where you can search the file. Okay, and so on. Okay, once you have this news and this things in driver code, in the say you write a main function, right? So you can say driver code and say def main. So here you can call this respective functions, and you can I think it is sending as dictionary. So you can say news is equal to something. So remember that what is the input and what is the output. So here I think there is URL and things like that. So once you have this, you will see some patterns. For example, this URL. URL is like it is here. Okay, you can also make some sort of settings file. So probably you want to take this out because these URLs can change. You can probably write news in such a way that you get things from multiple sources. So keeping this here would inhibit the changes in the code. You can, first step is to like move to settings file, and then probably settings file is not good enough. You can also make a some JSON file, so something like config.json, and you see that even JSON file is growing, and then you can put them into database. So that is where you can make this database driven rather than fixing it at this point. So remember that. So this is how you sort of refactor it. So now, so refactoring starts from such these sort of patterns where you have this sort of fixed um, variables or strings. So you move from this hard coded. This is actually not hard coded inside the function, but inside the module. You find this hard coding, but never hard code inside the function. This is like a big no. Okay, hard code. Find hard coding and then put it into say common settings.py file or something like that. Settings.py, and then if you see that it's like growing too big, and it's not manageable, so and you can send it to some say configuration file, because you need to make code changes if you want to add say a new news source. You can so if you make the code changes, you will have to deploy the code, right? That is one of the headaches, like you have to make a release and so on. So this is not a scalable solution again. So this is okay, good for no, at the moment, but next level is you put it into say some configuration file where you can manage the configuration file through without the release cycle. So you can send the configuration file and then you can additionally add new news sources. And then you see that okay, even doing this is a overhead. You can put all the sources in the DB. So once you have this, now you have established separation between your code and the sources. So this is your code and this is your source. So you can, in fact, now you can change your code from say Python to Java or Rust in future or whatever, because now it is database driven and it is not no more code driven. So this is one of the things that you must keep in mind. This is called as refactoring. So there are a lot of things in refactoring. So, but this is just about the global variables. So once you have this, you can, okay, yeah, that is just a tip I remembered. And yeah, did I close? Okay, let me go back to main file. And so we have got news. Similarly, you do it for weather. So we have got from the uh, weather box or the package and this one. So similarly, you get it for do it for what is that? What did we do? did in movies. Movies. And then once you have this data, you can put all of this data in desired format. So news plus you can in fact convert this into a string and then format it. News plus you can also have a function where you can aggregate this and put it in a nice formatting. But idea is aggregate all of this news plus weather plus movies. And once you have got this, so this can be done per user as well, but let us consider that it's a common recommendation. And then you can send mail, get the users, say get user data, something like that, or get users, or get subscribers. And once you have subscribers, you can simply loop through the subscriber in subscribers, and you can start sending the mail. Okay, so let me just format this. I think this is how. What happened? Undo, redo. Okay, forget this. We were talking about subscribers. For subscriber in subscribers, and then use this uh, notify, like from notify dot, I think it is send email, import send email, and simply send emails. That's all. Format the content and body and subject, and you can simply send this email. So this is the driver code which aggregates all of this. So once this is done, that's it. So the project is over. So yeah, so that's it. That's it about like how we brainstormed about the project. So in the first couple of 2 weeks, we learned basic Python code, wherein we understood the data types, loops, and iteration generators, and so on. And then in the second half, we did this project. You can see that this project, you can keep adding a code and make it better, but idea is to realize the project structure, and then doing this is now easy because now we have organized in such a format, and we have learned about each of these modules and how do we get the data and how do we process it. So by doing so, we learned some additional topics where those topics were not it's difficult to teach or individually, because you won't be able to relate it. So that is why I divided that into 2 weeks and 2 weeks. So in this 2 weeks, we learned something about data science, and something about sending mail, and REST APIs, and managing files like CSV and so on, JSON responses, and yeah, yeah, and refactoring, and so on, right? So these things, it's difficult to, you can simply teach the, take see a single example and teach it. But when you have this project in your mind, now it's easy to remember. Okay, these are the models that we spoke about, and then there is some driver code which aggregates all of this, um, and then there is some sort of trigger, and do this. And then what happens to the project after this is, once this is completed, so you also not completed, test code needs to be written like in parallel. So you also need to put in code here. So we did one example, I showed you in I think day before yesterday. You can add test cases. So there are also tools called as code coverage. So code coverage. So where you can test whether your test is covering all the code that you have written here. So for example, I have written, say, from line 2 to 11, say this is like 10 lines of code here. So if you run code coverage, use code coverage is look at these tests and then run the tests, and it keeps track about like how many lines of code is touched using these tests. So once you have that, it gives us a report saying that in this file, out of 10 lines, probably there are 7 lines which are uh, tested using these tests. And that is the reason the code coverage is 70%. And also it says that which lines are not covered in test code coverage and so on. So that is one thing, code coverage. So you can, this is just a concept you need to remember, but yeah, you can, it's an easy thing. You can search about Python code coverage. You can try that out. So unless you write these tests, you won't be able to try that. So this is code coverage. This is related to code quality. Okay. So and then there are also some tools on top of this, like linting code. So in Python, it's called PyLint. So you can actually integrate PyLint into your IDE. It shows some common uh, mistakes and common formatting and so on. You can also set, for example, you can also use two spaces here, but two spaces is too little to, for a reader to read. So you can use, and it tells that instead of two spaces, use 4 spaces so that it is readable. So you can configure all these things. So that is a second thing. And third thing is, once it gets into your repository wherein we learned Git, right? So once it goes into repository, so it is in your branch. So once it is in your branch, say for example, this is main branch, this is your feature branch and main branch. So this is where your code is residing. Next step is like how to push the code into main branch, because main branch is the place where the releases are happening and your code is getting into production, prod environments. Okay. So probably feature branches, probably you can use it in dev environments and you can test it in your dev systems. So how does the code get here? Using pull requests. So once you raise a pull request, what happens is the code guardians or the people who review the code, right? So there is something called as code review. So if you had checked in the code, created a branch in GitHub, right, I would have showed that how to do a code review. So once the code is reviewed, so there is something called as like voting. So once people vote, there needs to be, you can also configure this and say there are at least 2 people who needs to vote. So if they vote the code, only then it the merge button gets enabled and you can merge the code into main branch. So that is how it gets into the main branch. From the main branch, now what happens is the once it's there, it the deployment pipelines. So they're called pipelines, right? Deployment pipelines. What they do is, so now the code is in main branch, and this code gets picked up by some these pipelines. For you might have heard about Jenkins. So this is, and this helps in deployment. This is deployment automation. We're talking about deployment. So Jenkins keeps watching for changes in the main branch. So you can either trigger a you can also tell the Jenkins that there is somebody who triggers the release. So he clicks on like main release. So let us call it as main release. So it picks up from this branch. So there is a code in Jenkins which picks up this. There are several steps, 1, 2, 3, and 4, so on. First step, maybe it downloads the code, which is nothing but git clone from the main branch. So once it gets downloaded, it runs, say, probably tests. It depends on your configuration, but generally this is what happens. Tests from where? Tests from this box, and make sure that there are no basic errors. So, and it also probably there is also hook here saying that if your code coverage does not meet 80%, so you cannot deploy. So you can also set this. So this is like one more um, checking. So and then so now you understand that how difficult it is to push the code to the release, right? So this usually happens. So if you skip any of these steps, so it will end up in a so what happens is generally is like people are pressurized to deliver things and so on. People get exceptions. Okay, so something is not tested. So there is a new feature added, and then something else is breaking, and people, although they know that because so there is no problem in at the skill level, but they are pressed to release the code. So even their managers are aware and things like that, and then they think that okay, let it come and we will see it later. So then the cost is higher because now I see that Sima and Mohan are sitting in production case. So yeah, that could be one of the reasons. We don't know, but yeah. So it results in production bugs. So this is just and this doesn't ensure that there won't be production bugs, but this is a sure shot way of getting production issues. So that is one level. So test and code coverage, and then there are integration tests. These tests are, remember that in the initial phases we are talking about initial phases of the project, we spoke about integration test. So these tests are not coming from here. This is not the integration test. So that part of code is written by the testing folks, automated testing folks. So they have their own repository. So where similar repository, so maybe they have a lot of use cases, they will organize in such a way that it matches the requirements. So requirements, and there are test cases. So this mapping is something which QA guys do. So you can imagine that like the effort that we have put in is probably at QA level they're putting more efforts in matching these things and putting in the right format. So it is as good as like coding because we are writing a integration test suite. So that code gets run. So once that code gets run, this part of the code ensures that okay, requirements are satisfied and test cases are okay. Now you can deploy. So what is a deployment means is that so this code, the py files get uh, transferred into the production servers. Okay, so probably you can use SCP or FTP or whatever, it doesn't matter. So basically you're downloading the code or uploading the code from the deployment point of view, uploading the code to the production server. So once it is there, then probably it is in a container or the Docker containers, and then you can also mention Docker files saying that which part of the code. So this is just all in one single server. Okay, so you can also, I was talking like you can split these little boxes which are modules into services and then split it into various different servers, right? You can spin up different containers for all of this, and you can run it in a distributed fashion. So all of your components probably are running in separate servers, so like small threads, and they communicate with each other via REST APIs. So you can define REST APIs, you can create your own server using frameworks like Flask, Django, Fast API, and so on. And then they can talk to each other. So once this is there, this is about the deployment part. So once deployment is done, and then comes, now the code is running there, and that there is a lot of requests and things are happening, right? Like in Amazon, we are ordering the stuff and things like that. So what is happening to that particular code and database is like database is growing and code is in the play. So if there is some issue, so what happens? So we need to narrow down to the problem, right? So in such cases, so just imagine that we have deployed in a distributed fashion like this. And if you understand this, it's a single server is the same thing. So all the logs, so you cannot log into each of this container and take a look at logs, right? Because you don't know which service is causing what problem, because the deployment and the containers keep changing. Like if there are like for example, today is I think big billion festival sale or something like that. In such cases, your number of containers or the number of servers that you're using is more than usual, because you need to serve more people, right? So you won't be able to get hold of that particular container or server. So what can we get hold of is the logs. So how do we send logs from these containers or the servers? Uh, is using some sort of uh, another service called as log as a service, and then it gets aggregated at one point of one place. So now you can see that code is separate in a separate server, database is in separate server, logs are in separate server, and probably there are some stats which are collected at various places, like security or something like that, like how many people logged in from what places and all these things. These items could be collected in somewhere else. So let us call this say user logging server or something like that. Okay, so you can see that now it has become complicated. So uh, the reason that we have complicated this is to simplify it, right? So it looks complicated, but the only way to serve more customers in using multiple servers is to split the responsibilities. So there is split of responsibilities, and then we are collecting the logs, and at some point of time there are also other services and tools on top of this db logs and so on. It can analyze the logs and say, oh, okay, what is happening, and that is called as observability. So this all these things comes into deployment, and then there is observability. And on top of this, you know there are sales team, pre-sales team, and customer engagement team. All these guys are relying on this sort of data, and managers who are looking at this, who are making business decisions, they look at dashboards. So using this sort of data collected from users, databases and all these things, we create database dashboards wherein we summarize what's happening in overall software, and we can go back to customer and show that, okay, this is your um, 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 incoming data, and it helps to make decisions. So that is how this all these things are organized in a bigger context, in a bigger picture. So you need to understand this and always write code in this point of uh, that point of view. So generally, from 1 to 5 years, you won't have this complete picture. Uh, so in industry, and then as you move up the chain, where you become decision makers, like in designing and making architecture decisions, and then driving the team and so on. So all these things, coming to fit together and make a bigger picture. Yeah, that's about like how what is forward, what is the next steps in this stuff, right? What happens in this. So these are the things that we have learned so far, and I believe that this was helpful for you guys. Yeah, let me know later. Yeah. Yeah, that's that calls for this bootcamp is done for this month. Yeah, if you have any people who wants to learn Python, just refer to me. I don't do it every month, but if I get some few students and if they're interested, then I can send out a notification to for bootcamps. So yeah, yeah, that's it. And thanks for staying and.